Welcome back to Bedtime Geography and History. In episode 1, we laid out our guidelines to redesign the world map to create the most peaceful and self-sustainable borders possible. Tonight, we're beginning that journey, continent by continent, starting off with where I live, North America. This episode will dive into the new map of North America I've created. And I want to be clear, this isn't just going to be a list of the new nations that I've created. I want to go deeper and explain the why behind each. The history, the geography, the culture, and the hope for long-term peace. So get comfortable, and let's begin. North America is often seen as a pretty peaceful continent, especially compared to other hotspots such as maybe the Middle East. But under the surface lies deeper issues: cultural divides, economic inequality, and unresolved colonial legacies. Here, I saw the chance not only to fix existing tensions, but to imagine a more balanced structure across the continent. This is a region where language often hides fractured identities. So I asked, what if we reshaped it with those identities and cultures in mind? Let's begin with the new largest state on the map. The United States and Canada are fused into a single country, the North American Federation, a Protestant, English-speaking state with a primarily Germanic heritage and a population of almost 300 million. This merger assumes two things. First, cultural and linguistic compatibility across most of the US and Canada. And second, that unity could help de-escalate internal divides, rural versus urban, red versus blue, provincial versus federal. But I've made several territorial cuts from this nation because not all areas of it fit into this mold. The west coast of the US, encompassing California and Nevada, becomes Pacifica. Pacifica is a culturally distinct, English-speaking, but largely Catholic state with a Germanic demographic root. This state represents the idea that the West Coast, from Sacramento to San Diego to Las Vegas, has more in common with each other than with the former United States. Pacifica is more progressive, more globally connected, and culturally distinct. And by allowing it to exist as its own nation, we reduce political friction that would otherwise fester within a continental superstate. In the Northeast, we carve out New Amsterdam, a state including New York, New Jersey, and parts of New England. Though English-speaking, its culture is largely Italic and Catholic, drawing from its strong Italian, Irish, and Portuguese diasporas. New Amsterdam recognizes that the American Northeast often feels culturally removed from the American South or the Midwest. Giving it autonomy respects that identity and reduces internal tension. It also allows this region, economically powerful and globally oriented, to chart its own diplomatic course separate from the United States. Now we enter Latin America. Instead of a monolithic Mexico, or Central America, I've divided the region based on deep cultural and linguistic patterns. Mexico is redefined as a strong mestizo and Catholic nation, Spanish-speaking and centralized. Arrido America separates Mexico's north, Castizo, acting as a cultural bridge between Mexico and the new North American Federation. Yucatan becomes a central Amerindian nation, reflecting its indigenous Maya roots. Guatemala maintains its independence as a central Amerindian nation, with slight modifications to its borders to reflect cultural borders. El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua unite into the United States of Central America, a nation with a strong mestizo culture united by the Spanish language. Belize keeps the same borders that it has today due to its strong English-speaking presence, being a notable outlier compared to its neighbors. Costa Rica also keeps its same borders, being notably Italic. Panama loses a small amount of Afro-Latino cultural land to the south, which will be covered in episode 3 about South America. However, the rest stays the same. The Caribbean was relatively simple. are preserved existing nations but acknowledge ethnic and religious differences. Haiti is Afro-Caribbean, Catholic, and French-speaking, staying the same as it is today. Just an island away, Jamaica is also Afro-Caribbean, but is different in the fact that it is Protestant and English-speaking. Cuba is Italic, Catholic, and Spanish-speaking, forming its own cultural identity within the boundaries of its island. Puerto Rico is also Italic, Catholic, and Spanish-speaking. However, due to the distance and islands between it and Cuba, also forms its own separate nation confined to its island borders. The Dominican Republic remains distinct from Haiti for reasons both linguistic and cultural. The Bahamas is English-speaking, similarly to Belize in Jamaica, but reflects its cultural identity due to distance and geography. This part of the map mostly respects today's borders, because despite colonial violence, many Caribbean nations have already reflect coherent cultural and linguistic groupings. 3 regions in eastern Canada are given independence. Quebec becomes a French-speaking, Italic Catholic state. This grants long-desired independence while avoiding repeated referendums or political tension in the North American Federation. Newfoundland becomes its own English-speaking Celtic Protestant state, small but culturally cohesive. With strong maritime traditions, it's well-suited to thrive as an independent country. Labrador is similar to Newfoundland, even being united under the same province in Canada. However, it will receive its own independence due to its uniquely Germanic culture as opposed to its Celtic neighbor. I've also created Vinland as an Eskimo Aleut state, comprising the Inuit and other indigenous Arctic peoples. This state spans part of northern Canada and Greenland, not shown on all maps, but vital to acknowledge. It's English-speaking and Protestant in this design, though this may vary in practice. As for Alaska, parts of it are more culturally similar to Vinland. However, it is too geographically separate for me to consider it as being part of the same nation. However, Alaska would be unlikely to be able to sustain its own independence, thus it was folded into the North American Federation. So why even make all these changes? What's the point? By separating distinct identities, we're reducing internal friction within countries. By respecting culture, language, and religion, we're increasing the chance that each country will be more harmonious and governable. And by giving each state a coastline, we're trying to ensure that they all have economic potential through ports, fisheries, and trade. But I know this is just one possibility for borders. There are 1,000 ways I could reshape this continent, and your input is vital. This has been Bedtime Geography and History. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see the borders of all the other continents reshaped and redesigned, please subscribe. Episode 3 is planned to focus on South America next. And remember, this is all just a thought experiment. I'm not here to impose anything or make light of any conflict. I'm here to ask, what if we could start over? What would we do differently? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Did I miss something? Would you draw the map a different way? Please let me know. Your voice matters. Good night and sweet dreams.